Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a somewhat hazy, breezy, and a little bit misty on occasion Road America, just outside of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, about halfway between Milwaukee and Green Bay. We are here for the World Racing League, their fourth round of this 2026 championship. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Ryan West, who is not only a superb announcer, but is also a great producer. It's great to have him on board, as he always is with these World Racing League broadcasts. Ryan, it's going to be an interesting one today. It looks like we're in between damp sessions, so we might see some actual speed out of these cars.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit cold this morning. There was a rainstorm that they thought was going to blow through overnight and kind of ruin the track and make it green, basically, after laying down some rubber all day yesterday. That has not really come to pass. The track was more along the lines of what longtime listeners will know as Scott Michaels' head rain, where it's raining only so much that you think it's raining, but the track is actually fine and you're not really missing out on anything. So that has cleared up. We probably got a good 20 minutes or so of that, but now we're going to start some qualifying action with our GTO cars. It is a little chilly and no sunlight, so not that much energy in the track either. I think it'll take at least a lap or so for these tires to come up to temperature.
Well, and that's one of the things, as it's cooler here with this long straight, it takes a little bit longer when it's cool to get heat into the tires. And of course, that's absolutely critical. Getting the right temperature in the tire gets the pressures in the tires right for the setup on the car. So it's all critical. This is one of those scenarios where a heavier car will get weight into those tires much, much quicker. So one would expect the GTO cars to come alive a little bit sooner than those lightweight rockets in GTU. So we'll see how that plays out. The other thing to be very aware of here is this track, just by its design, is incredibly hard on brakes and also very thirsty. It's a very thirsty track. Shouldn't be an issue in quali, but if anybody's trying to get some reads on fuel consumption runs here, it's going to be really, really important. Now, they've had practice before this, so they've been able to get some of that done. Take a look here. Carousel, one of the many legendary corners here, Ryan. I know that the track calls this the National Park of Speed. I've just always loved calling it America's Nürburgring. It just has that feel.
It really does, and I like the National Park of Speed moniker too. It's the first place, genuinely, as somebody that had a young family and now has kind of a 10-year-old daughter, but as somebody that lived in this area with a young family, it was really one of the few IMSA tracks that I felt comfortable. Like, you know what, I could bring my family here, and they could go play disc golf. They could hike in the woods. They could go hang out in the beach section back there beyond the carousel. There's a huge kids area. Like, there's stuff to do, and you can hike around this track for hours and, look around and get different vantage points and see something different at the track. And, I've got a couple shots here where you can kind of look through the forest and get the vibe a little bit. As we're going to have our first set of cars come through the green flag here. I love it here, Greg. And of course, I haven't been to the Nürburgring, but I imagine on a 12-mile track or what have you, you get the same kind of opportunities.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, and I'm biased for Road America. I consider this home, even though I grew up in Minnesota and really got my first experience in the United States of racing at Brainerd. But this track, I lived in Elkhart Lake for a few years, and I just fell in love with it the first time I came here. And to me, it's just a phenomenal challenge. You've got the amazing elevation changes here. And have a look at this. New addition, Ryan, to this championship.
I'm going to level with you, Greg. I don't have the monitor up in front of me. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the drone. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got the drone shot here right through the carousel, it looks like.
That's coming out of turn 1 down into 3.
Oh, turn 1. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're struggling here. Just
easy to happen. Easy to happen.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go. No, it looks fantastic. I'm very excited to have the drone program up and running here. Get these nice, beautiful shots. Look how green the grass is this time of year here. We've spent a lot of time at DriversEye Live looking through tan desert backdrops with the Porsche Owners Club and Thunder Hills WRL round, in Northern California in early April. It's still a little bit gray. Starting to get the green here, but you get this really deep, rich shade of green here at WRL when we come to Road America. The trees haven't quite come all the way back to life yet, but the grass looking stunning as always.
Yeah, it's a just a really, to me, a magical place. And as you talked about, with the length here, yes, you can climb into the turn 5 grandstands or the Canada Corner grandstands and just sort of sit there for the day. But to me, the magic is to wander around this track. One of the greatest vantage points is the grandstand to me right there at the outside of turn 1, because you get to see the cars go tails away through 1, which is a deceptively fast corner, and you get guys that are really hustling it, and you'll see them just carrying that little bit of a drift through that corner. To me, it's just a very, very special place. And then turn 3 here, there's so many corners here, Ryan, because there's so many long, flat out straight sections. There's so many corners here that are absolutely crucial to a good lap, particularly in qualifying. And, any one of them that leads onto a long straight. So it starts with 14, and you've actually got to get 14 right twice on this track, because it can affect, if you have a great lap going and you got through it really well to start the lap, but then you have a bobble at the finish, it's really critical. But I mean, what is it? You got 14, you got turn 3, you got the carousel, turn 8, essentially the launch out of 8, and Canada. I mean, all of these turns are so crucial for speed on a lap here.
Absolutely, and it's really a cool track for that reason. Like, you've just talked about it a bunch, and I remember watching battles in the American Le Mans series especially. There was a timeline in there in like the early teens where you'd have cars that made lap speed in really different ways. And so, there's a lot of straights here, but as you talked about, there's a lot of corners here that you have to get right to take enough speed down the straight. And so there were times when you'd have, a BMW M3 that, has decent mid-range grunt, but is, a quite large car that suffers a little bit on the aero front down the straights, versus a Porsche that can get on the power really early and is good in that midsection, but then starts to top out a little bit, versus, a Viper or a Corvette or what have you. And you could really see here the way cars made lap time in different ways. It makes it really apparent who has what going on and how you're going to have to make your move going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And like anywhere, once we get into the race, in traffic, horsepower rules, right?
Right.
So if you're a light car that can roll a lot of corner speed, but doesn't have the grunt per se down the straight, you've got to play that game of chess incredibly well. And sometimes at this track, viewers look at that beautiful orange Supra rolling through here. At this track, you'll see in qualifying cars kind of running together, and you're going, what is the point of that? Well, at this track, you've got 3 good opportunities to get a heck of a tow if you can play that game right.
Absolutely. It really is just incredible across the board. I can't say enough good things about it. It's a fantastic part of the country as well. As you mentioned, growing up here, and I spent some time in Minneapolis as well, that it feels like coming home a lot.
Yeah,
and everybody in the town very excited about the prospect of people being in town for the track. You feel like everybody knows you, what you're here for. You're all into the same kind of things. It's been really fantastic. I will turn our attention here a little bit to the qualifying, as we've just started to have our first set of lap times be reported. Most of our front runners are on lap 2 now, or going finish lap 2 into lap 3. Because the 120 of AE Victory Racing, that's the orange-nosed Supra, I believe, a 221.690 currently on the pole, followed closely by the 77 of Kingpin Racing, a 222.578. And then in third position, the Triple Light Racing Porsche, the number 54. Just trying to get some temperature going here, I think. I've got this set by overall and not by lap time, which is my problem. Yeah, there we go. My fastest lap. Oh, yeah, see, there you go. I was completely wrong about all that. On pole is the 58 of Go Karts Go Australia. I had the red mist configured the wrong way. In the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT4, my understanding is being crewed by Jay Pellegrini and company, the people behind the wildly successful NFC Motorsports Mercedes program. So it's really the pedigree there with the crew able to get that taken care of. Number 2 of ACP with Tangerine Associates. That's the BMW M4, a 229.36. They're in second position. No strangers to this track, of course. They're here quite frequently. Triple Eight Racing number 102 is in third, followed by the 120 of AE Victory Racing. That's your top 4.
And we finally have both of the GTU cars showing some times here. But again, I think we're talking because of that light weight of those cars in these cold conditions or cool conditions.
Right.
I mean, we're at 61 degrees here right now. It's just going to take them a little bit longer to be. And keep in mind, last year the race was absolutely ruled by GTU cars. And so it's going to be fascinating to see. Look at that. That is about as perfect a run through turn 1 as you can get. You don't want to get too far over that exit curve because it gets really rough and can suddenly just pitch you sideways. But you can use up most of that exit curve and carry a ton of speed through turn 1, and that looked fabulous.
No, it does look great, especially with the drone coverage we have now as well. That little bit of motion, being able to take that in, it's really, really awesome. You've said about the GTU cars, Greg, that it takes a little bit of time to get the tire pressure up. But even the 678 of Stack Racing with Rapscallion and the 669, I think they had 3 cars registered at one point, but maybe just the 2 for the race. It does take those cars a little bit of time to come up to temperature because while they are in GTO, they're around the lower limits for weight in GTO. And so those are cars that it takes a little while to get some heat pumped up in the tires here. So as we saw at Thunder Hill early in the race, it takes them a bit of time to come on strong and get the car where they want it to be.
Well, they're also mid-engine, right?
Yes, they are mid-engine.
And so you don't have weight either over the drive wheels or the braking turn wheels.
Correct.
So that adds to that. Once it's there, they're missiles. But
right.
It just takes that amount of time.
And we're following along right now with the Cargo Shorts Racing Supra, which is one of the 2 Kingpin entries this weekend. It's just a little bit of a dead zone here as we come through Canada Corner, and then we'll pick them back up coming up through the sort of turn 13 complex.
Yep, that's Thunder Valley is what this area is nicknamed, and Canada Corner's in the background, then up through 13, Billy Mitchell. And at the top of that, right, you can see where the old bridge used to be.
Yeah.
What I love about how they did this when they decided to eliminate that bridge and put the tunnel in, they still kept that very blind apex.
Right.
So turn 13 remains a challenge, even though the bridge abutment isn't there to spook you like crazy. Oh.
And so there we've got one of the ACP with Tangerine Associates cars being followed closely by one of the GTUs. I believe that would be the 109 of Roberts Motorsports, the sort of magenta purpley car. And we just saw the 120 head back into the pit lane. They're currently down in 5th position. Still in the lead right now, the 58 of Go Karts Go Australia. They're in the pit lane. That 2:48.9, their last lap time, so that's their in-lap, of course, and then a 2:20.397 as their current pole time. And then only about a 10th or so behind is the number 1 of 2 of Triple Light Racing in the Porsche.
And I'll tell you, that time, I'm not surprised to see that Go Karts Go Australia Mercedes be the car that got out there and was able to get a time in very quickly. That Mercedes chassis, and for the last number of years, it is so pliable without losing the platform, but it's so pliable. It soaks up bumps when you're on a rough track. But one of the benefits of that is that it gets heat in those tires very well.
Yep.
Assuming you don't, the last thing you want is to overinflate them. They get hot fast, and then they overinflate, and suddenly you're just sliding all over the place. But those guys clearly got the memo on how to get things up and running here in a hurry.
Yeah, so we've seen this car come and go from WRL. I think they make a trip over to hit some bucket list tracks, a couple times a year. And like I said, Jay Pellegrini with Pellegrini Performance that runs the NFC program, always happy to provide some trackside support for that car as well. So a good team, good guys to be around. They're all fantastic. I believe, and Brendan would have to correct me on this if he was here, I believe there was one year that they brought a V8 supercar to COTA and ran it on the test day. Just as like a fun thing to be able to do. I think that was them that did that. I'd want to go back and double check, make sure I'm not speaking out of turn there, but I'm pretty confident it was them. The 119 comes into the pit lane as well.
That must have been something to see.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And that was right before they announced that Shane Van Gisbergen was going to run in that guest seat where he had his fateful win at Chicago. This was like 3 or 4 months prior to that occurring. I don't remember who they said drove the car, but they had somebody from Australia come over and drive that at COTA. It was not Shane Van Gisbergen. I'd have to go back and check. The JT went down too. It was a decent-sized storyline there. That was, of course, the fateful race with Richard Childress Racing and Kaz Grala's family running one of those Fury tube frame cars, and was very competitive until the end. I think the diplomatic way to talk about that incident. It's pretty fun to watch, though.
So tell you, Triple Eight Racing has that margin is only 73 1/1000ths of a second right now from Go-Karts Australia out of Triple Eight. So they don't need to find much.
No, that's a car, that Triple Eight Racing Porsche, that really has been honed as a tool for this championship in the last year and a half. And they've really been able to take that car and run with it and have some strong results. A little bit of a tough time out at Thunder Hill, but that was a tough track for everybody, I think, in terms of tire dag and heat and it being a new track for most of the entrants. So this should be a little bit more representative pace for that car in this series here at Road America, where WRL has been coming for the last 10 years or so.
Well, I'll tell you, the Porsche has historically been a superb car here for a couple of reasons. Because, what do you want from a car at this track? You want it to be slippery.
Yeah.
You want it to get power down well out of those key corners, and you want it to have really good brakes. Well, I just defined a Porsche, basically.
Exactly.
And it works. I mean, it's an effective car here. Like you said, because of the engine in those cars, sometimes they'll run out a little bit near the end of the long straights in terms of pull.
Right.
But boy, do they accelerate quickly and they get through the air so clean.
Absolutely. And so we're just waiting to catch that Porsche coming through the turn 13 complex here, the Thunder Valley, as it were.
Yep.
And there it is right there, the Fury car, I believe that one is. They've got names for both of them. One of them is Fury, and the other one I don't remember. Go back and look at their... that would be great. I'm going to go back and look at their post and see on this one. We've got a little bit of time left to go. You see this semi-frequently in WRL, where you bank a couple of good laps, bring the car back in, let the tires cool down a hair, because you are on the 200 tread wear tire in WRL. Let's get a little bit too much heat in there, and you don't have the maximum pace available to you all the time. So just taking a little bit of a break, and then they'll check pressures again and send them back out, and maybe take one more crack at it. The way F1 qualifying used to be.
Just did that, Ryan. I don't mean to jump in, but a 220.1, and that now has them leapfrogging Go-Karts Go Australia's car, and up by about a quarter of a second on that number 58 Australia entry. And also Roberts Motorsports in their 109 GTU just put in their best lap at a 223.1. So this is happy hour. It's time to get after it. Wheelhouse Motorsports in the 91 just jumped up to 5th with a very impressive 221.552. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no problem. Some
big changes happening here.
Absolutely. We're just getting into what I was talking about, so it's totally fine, where we got cars coming back out and setting some more lap times here. Triple Eight Racing, it's the 102 is Rudy, and the 54 is Lucy. Are your two...
Rudy and Lucy?
Rudy and Lucy is what I've got on here. Yep.
I like that.
And, of course, the 2 ACP with Tangerine, that's the sort of dazzle paint scheme BMW that you'll see out there. And then the 410 is the blue and green car. Kind of the technical, modern-y style design. And we've got just a phalanx of supers here this weekend. And so I'll try to help everybody keep those straight as we see one of the Mustangs head through the carousel. The Wheelhouse Motorsports, formerly the Ford Racing School team, effectively. And so from time to time, we see some Mark Rushbrook types enter the race. Some Jim Farley types have been known to come down and drive the Mustang.
So it's impressive to add that into an entry list, to have that there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've met Jim Farley a handful of times now. Always a pleasant guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, he knows how to run a business. He knows what you got to do, but seems genuine.
You know, and if you're really watching here as we get back, we've been following the Porsche around. On those key launch corners, you might see it run just a slightly different line than the other cars.
Yeah.
Again, because of the engine being back over those drive wheels, you want to get the car turned a fair bit early, so then you can just plant that accelerator and get that thing to launch out of the corners. Now the fast turns, you're going to drive it, you know, like a sweeper and just try and roll speed. But you know, like out of some of these other corners, you'll watch it. It'll just wait a little bit longer to turn, get that turn done, and then go hard to the throttle and be, you know, just cruising by the time you get to the track out point. There's that critical turn 5, that downhill braking zone is very popular because the runoff down there tends to get very popular. Again, this track hard on brakes.
It is, and you'll notice later on the weekend when we move the drone over to the carousel that they've started to put some of that grasscrete runoff at the edge of the carousel now too, after they had made some changes to the kink after a couple notable incidences with the SCCA, where they've now added some runoff and it just goes straight to grass there at the edge of the kink. They've now added that sort of concrete that the grass can grow through to the edge of the carousel towards the exit over there. When we have the drone over there, you can see it pretty clearly. And so they're making little minor changes to this track, but it's one of the things I enjoy is they haven't made sweeping changes to it to fit the flow of, you know, the FIA standards, and we got to have grade 1 track so that we can maybe run F1 here one day, and we're going to make all the runoff and this and that. And, you know, I think that's why people like the North American tracks so much when you talk about them in Europe, is that a lot of these have remained unchanged for 30 or 40 years at least. You know, with Road America, Road Atlanta, to some extent, you know, Laguna Seca made that change in the late 80s, early 90s, where they added that section at the bottom there, but the rest of the track has remained very much the same.
Yeah, and, you know, one of the reasons that, you know, a lot of the European drivers love coming to those tracks is they're still consequential, right? And it's just it's so satisfying when you run a great lap here. Boy, that was a nice line. When you run a really good lap on one of those tracks that you were talking, VIR, another one, that, you know, because there's consequence if you go off. And so when you really put it together, that's very, very special.
Yep, absolutely.
Taking a look here at the, you know, that margin between Go Karts Go Australia and the 888 Racing entry we're watching is still at 73 1/1000ths. It's just that great lap by the ACP Tangerine machine, number 2, that BMW M4 GT4 Evo, just found a quarter of a second on everybody.
Right. And I believe this is the 54, or if it is the 102, it's on its out lap, and it hasn't cleared timing yet. Now, they both have really similar, so it's blue stripes, it's blue and orange stripes versus red and white stripes, so it'll be a little bit difficult to pick up, but we'll work on that. Just got a little bit of a lull here as I try to sort out a technical thing. Let's see here. Just run through the timing again real quick. So just a little rundown real quick. We've got the number 2 of ACP with Tangerine, a 220.1. Go Karts Go in the 888 Racing car, as we've talked about, less than a tenth of a second apart. here for second and third. The 144 of Forza Motorsport, that's one of the BMWs. I believe Bill Oberlin here this weekend, helping that team out in the 144. That's the BMW M4 in the classic BMW colored livery, as you will, the white with the blue and red on it. Followed by that, you've got the 410 of ACP with Tangerine, the 91 of Wheelhouse, that's the Mustang, the 120 of AE Victory, one of the Supras, the 54 from AAA to Porsche, the 77 of Kingpin Racing, the 109 of Roberts, currently the leader in GTU. Again, I think having a tough time in these conditions getting the tires squared away. 282 of TCB Racing, being run alongside the 87 of Stoic Racing, also 11th, 12th on track. The 119 of AE Victory, Supra, that's the second AE Victory car. The two of those cars had an incredible outing at Thunder Hill. 246 of TCB, so you've got 11th through 14th right now, all Supras, and the Roberts Motorsport breaking that up, and then you've got the 77 of Kingpin. So a lot of Supras there. 678 of Stack Racing with Rapscallion, currently pitted 15th position, a 223 their best mark, but I'm guessing they're going to take another crack at that. And 16th place, the 11th of Kingpin, the 669 Stack Racing with Rapscallion, and 17th, number 92 of Wheelhouse Motorsports, and 18th. And then at the tail of the field, you have the 4048 competition GTU car. Again, tricky conditions for a racing prototype like that with the amount of tire they have on that car as well. Do you remember when that car came out, Greg, and the whole idea behind it initially when Elon built it?
No.
So originally, I believe it was NASA that built it or designed it, that they wanted that to be kind of a kit car that you could load all of your NC Miata bits onto.
Oh, got
and so
it.
you put the suspension and stuff on there. We've now departed from that substantially, and the Sebico team, of course, has done a great job of getting that car a little bit more squared away, a little bit more powerful, a little bit better handling. So a pretty cool car they can run here in WRL. We've only had a couple of them this season, but hoping to see some more of those. That'll be a fun time.
Yeah, they're great looking little cars for sure. And I'll tell you, I'm impressed with what we're seeing from Roberts Motorsports. You know, they have been chipping away at it. And their last lap they just turned was their quickest, that 2:22.2, and that puts them up into the top 10 overall. And I think in these conditions, that's a pretty good lap. Well, I'll tell you, we are seeing these Supras have really the Supra GT4 Evo 2. Have really become a popular package, haven't they? There's a lot more of them running currently than we've seen in the past.
They have, and unlike some other manufacturers that used to feature quite heavily in WRL, Toyota has welcomed teams to running the Supra in WRL with open arms, and for quite some time was providing trackside customer support. I think they finally got to where everybody's happy with the car the way it is and the way it runs in WRL trim, to where they don't need to send that trackside support the same way. And you know, we've been running this car for probably about 4 years now or so, and the book is really out there. But you know, in its early stages, you know, the handful of teams that were running these cars running one at a time, Toyota had an engineer available to help them get the car set up. And I think, you know, as I said, this TCB and Stoic Racing team and Kingpin, of course, really the originators of running that car and doing a great job with it. It was recently picked up by AE Victory in the last couple of years as well, after they had a troublesome time getting the Audi R8 to work at WRL power levels. But now that they're in the Supra and they get some help from Laura Hayes from time to time with Thunder Bunny, who ran the Supra in WRL to you know, great results constantly while they were here. You've got a lot of high-level teams, as we see. If we could just go to the pit camera, the 119 pulling into pit lane here, the pit stall. Oh, that's not a problem. Well, it just takes a second. There we go. The 119 and then the 120 right behind it. The two Supra GT4 cars there. And a lot of the Supras are pitted together, but right here, we've also got the ACP with Tangerine Associates. I believe that's the 2 right behind it. So they're going to be all pitted together. We've got a pretty big GTO field. So the pit lane action here is going to be pretty special, I think. And then, of course, there you've got the 2 Porsche 911s in the background.
Wow. Then that number 2 we're looking at, that's quite the graphics package on it.
Yeah, absolutely. The ACP with Tangerine.
Kind of Mondrian-esque.
They do incredible work with their liveries every season as the number 11 goes by here. Love having these great pit lane shots as well.
Yeah, that adds so much for sure.
Yeah. little bit of a, especially around all these GT4 teams that have got a lot of cell stuff going on, that a little bit of a coverage nightmare down there.
Hey, we just had the 148 competition GTU machine just jumped from, it was in the 227s. They just ran a 225.8. So.
Oh, wow. That's a big swing there.
Yeah. So they're obviously, I think they made a long stop, and they clearly got something dialed in on the car.
Yeah.
You'd love to see that.
Yeah, not a ton
look
of
at
cars
that rotation.
Right now.
You see that up at 6?
Yeah.
That is how you want to drive that corner. I remember many years ago sitting in the booth during qualifying for a ALMS race back in the Audi R8 days, and with Dorsey Schrader, and we were talking about how tricky turn 6 is. And I think it's an incredibly underrated corner. You know, it's one of the most difficult corners going. And, you know, because you come over that rise, and that's right in the middle of your braking point. So if you brake too early, you're still kind of climbing, and then you're slow. And if you brake late, because it flattens out, right? You come over the rise, it flattens out, and then it goes into the turn. If you brake too late, you're off the outside. And Dorsey said, yes, it's an incredibly difficult corner. And he said, but the one way you can make it work is right as you come over that rise, if you time it right, where you can get the car to rotate. So, you know, you really, you get aggressive with turn in as the car's a little bit light, and as it lands, you get this rotation moment. And he said it just nulls out all the push you would have going through 7. And as he's explaining it, James Weaver in one of those LMP2 MGs came whistling up the hill, and executed it to perfection. And you could see it clearly what he did. And at the end of that lap, the timing changed from Alan McNish, one of those monster Audi R8s on pole, to James Weaver in that little LMP2 car. And it was just a matter of, you know, you add those little moments up around a 14-turn track like this, that can add, if you're 10th quicker in every corner, well, at the end of a lap, you're 1.4 seconds quicker, So, and we know you don't have to have margins even of a tenth in those corners. It can add up in a hurry. And it was just majestic to watch James just nail that in turn 6. It's so tricky at turn 6.
Yeah.
I've raced here a few times, and it was a problematic corner for me to dial in. But man, when you start to feel it and get it right, it's awesome. And I think it deserves a lot more respect than it gets.
I agree here. We've just taken the checkered flag here, Greg.
Okay.
As we finish out the day here, we've got a nice shot of the pit lane from the drone. That's your GTO field sitting there. They're going to wrap these cars up, I reckon, for the rest of the day. Some of them might take some practice opportunity here, but I think for the most part, we're going to have everybody pretty satisfied with where they are. One more rundown. You got the 2 from ACP Tangerine Associates, the 58 of Go Cars Go Australia, the 102 of Triple Eight, the 144 of Forza finally getting up there into the 220s. So I think once the temperature comes into that car, everybody's going to have no trouble at all. 410 of ACP Tangerine, the 91 of Wheelhouse, the highest ranked Mustang here today in 6th position. Number 120 of AE Victory, the 54 of Triple Eight, that's the other Porsche, the 109 of Roberts Motorsports, the 77 of Kingpin, the 282 of TCB, the 87 of Stoic, the 119 of AE Victory, the 246 of TCB, all in that 2 minutes 22 section right here. So there's a chance, Greg, that I think people might have optimized the car for tomorrow when we're going to have a little bit warmer conditions. And it's just been a bit chilly here today. And so, having the car need to have the tires come up to temperature, you may not want that tire to come up to temperature quickly on a cold day when you're really going to want to save tire going into tomorrow. You're going to want to have the setup be a little bit different, I reckon. So potentially a change there, because usually these are teams that are not 2 seconds off the pace. That is not normal, I would say.
Right.
But indeed, your 120 of AE Victory at 221.5, I think is, or I'm sorry, 221.6 is a lot more representative, I think, of the pace that those cars have. So you got Stoic AE Victory, TCB, the 678 of Stack Racing with Rapscallion, again, another car that I think a cold day does not help them. The 11 of Kingpin, the 669 of Stack Racing, both those Ligiers, the 92 of Wheelhouse, and then the 4048 Competition, who had made a big stride towards the closing stages of qualifying there in the GTO GTU session. We're going to take a little bit of a break here. We'll be back in, let's see what the official schedule says. I believe we'll be back in about 25 to 40 minutes. I'm going to get the exact time here in a second.
2:20.
2:20. That sounds about right. Yeah. So about 45 minutes or so. Go out and get yourselves a lunch. We'll leave the cameras running on some type of rotation cycle here. And you'll be able to watch some of the HPDE while we take a quick break, and we'll come back a little bit before qualifying picks back up and maybe do some podcast time with Greg and Ryan here. So thanks for watching GTU and GTO qualifying. We hope you've enjoyed it. We're day one of figuring out the drone and the pit lane cam. So we're going to keep working at that. That's part of today, is getting the kinks worked out. And then tomorrow, of course, we're going to be using that in earnest. But be back in less than an hour. We'll do some more qualifying here on DriversEye Live with the World Racing League.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to those of you that haven't joined us as of yet today, as we are returning to, as you can see on the graphic there, GP1, which is general production, GP1 and GP2 qualifying. We'll be on track next for about a half hour, starting at 2:20 Central Time. Be 3:20 Eastern, obviously, and we will be back with the call for you. In that first session, we were looking at, with the GTO cars, in the low 220s. Some of these cars, I would suspect, should be able to get fairly close to that, but we'll see how that all plays out. And of course, this is all in preparation for the World Racing League's big doubleheader weekend of racing, an 8-hour enduro tomorrow, a 7-hour enduro Sunday. And it's my pleasure to have Ryan West, who has been at all of these almost since the inception of the coverage on DriversEye Live. And Ryan, looking forward to this one. Amazing track, great field. Doesn't get much better than that.
It really doesn't. We've got a nice sized GP1 and GP2 field this time around as we see the AOA Racing BMW first out of the pit lane, followed by El Diablo, the sweep last time out at Thunderhill Raceway Park in that highlighter yellow BMW. I think they're looking to continue their run of strong form here in GP1. Right behind them was North Loop Motorsports, a local entrant based out of Minneapolis. They have been working on their car in the off-season. They don't quite run full seasons so much anymore. They did win the championship a while back and ran most of the season. But this is one of the races they always try to make it to at a minimum. And they've made some changes to the car, a little bit wider tire, and so they're finding that car a little bit easier to keep consistent. So that's going to be, I think, your main contender in GP2 this weekend. Another GP2 entrant to talk about, the Culture Racing car. I believe an Axe Camacha's setup as far as who's behind the vehicle. Currently run by some of the gentlemen from the Porsche Owners Club are here with us at WRL at Road America, making their first trip out. So some interesting storylines to follow in GP2. I would encourage all of the entrants. RJ sent out a competitor survey. If you can get that filled out for me this evening and blast it over, I can get that organized and we'll be able to look at it tomorrow. And we'll have more storylines to chase, more things to talk about. So if you could do that for me, that would be great. Anyway, we're going to get settled into some qualifying here. We're just seeing the drone.
Shot.
So we've moved the drone now to the carousel.
Not a lot of people understand just how tricky this corner is. It literally carries two corner numbers because it goes on so long, 9 and 10. And as you can see, it's actually way more than 180 degrees. It folds back on itself a bit. But as you get about halfway through that corner, it starts to fall away a little bit. And whatever little bit of positive camber you had goes away, and by the time you hit that apex curve right in the middle of the frame there, all the way to the exit point, it's downhill, and you don't have a lot of grip, but you're carrying it by that point a huge amount of speed. And then, of course, you've got to get the car straightened out and get everything cinched up in your cockpit to get ready to go through the kink. One of the most diabolically awesome corners in racing. So that's a look, and I love that look at the track is going to be spectacular. We should start seeing some times coming in relatively soon. You'll notice here a serious predominance of BMWs, various BMW formats here. You were talking about the Culture Racing car, one of the Porsches that we have seen, but it's seriously, the BMW is a very popular car in this class. There is a Toyota GR86 Cup car and a Porsche Boxster that will be running out there, but primarily BMWs. And one of the reasons is they just work. You know, they got good acceleration, they handle well, they brake well, and everything you want in a race car. And once you get it, it's a relatively easy car to maintain, and a really easy car to be able to put in to whatever power to weight ratio that you're looking at, which is how, of course, the classes are set up here in the World Racing League. And here we go up into turn 6, the exit 6. Don't want to miss that apex. Don't want to miss that apex. And here you see him. Look at this, down. That's turn 7. Again, very much off camber. As you turn in, it is off camber, and you're just hanging on and then downhill braking zone, not quite as dramatic as 5, but now get this one right because you are in a hard acceleration mode as you enter this turn. And what you do is you get in and you just keep pushing, and then you'll find the car starting to push a little bit. And that's the message to you to just breathe the throttle a little bit and get that car to just settle in, get a little bit of the of the weight back where you want it, and just ride that out. And then, as you can see up in the distance, the kink. And it's funny how they've labeled it a kink, but when you're moving along at a $130, $140, that's a corner, and it is a tight one, and there is minimal runoff. Ryan had talked about during the GTO GTU qualifying that they've made some changes on the exit of the kink to try and make it a little bit more recoverable back there, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we said, they had a little bit of trouble in the past with some of the people not quite making the kink all the way. You put a wheel off there and it was like ice almost, especially if it had been a little bit damp in the morning. You would end up with these situations where you put one wheel off in a Miata or whatever and you lose the rest of the car, and it would kind of suck you into the wall over there. And so it was part of what made the corner so tricky, right? It was, do you have full commitment, and are you certain that you're going to be able to get that thing hammered down and keep it on the pavement? But it really was a high-risk corner, and they've made some changes to it here to make sure that it is a little bit safer. And if you put your wheel off, you're on that concrete that's kind of a mesh to it that has some grass growing up through it. So it is a little bit less grip, but it's not so dramatic that you're going to drop a wheel over into the grass and it's wet and muddy and it pulls you all the way away. So we've made some changes there at the kink, and they've made similar changes to the runoff at the exit of the carousel there as well. So a little bit of a change, but as we talked about, by and large, this track unchanged for a long, long time.
Well, one of the things that the Road America ownership group and board of directors do incredibly well, I think better than probably any place else, certainly in North America, is the constant work that they do on this track.
Yeah.
Whether it be in the spectator areas, whether it be the track surface itself, they are always improving and evolving it. And I like that idea. You have that bit of runoff, like you described it, with the grasscrete, as you put it. It allows you to be able to just ride out if you run a little bit wide, as opposed to, as you said, hitting one of the ruts, hooking something, and being either sucked into the wall or have the back end snap around and come right back across in front of traffic. So I like that evolution, and what they're trying to do here. And you're always looking at just improving the track, making it that little bit safer, without, on these tracks anyway, without taking away what makes them literally magic for so many drivers here. And it all starts with this this carousel corner. Man, I saw back when Davy Jones was running the XJR V12 Jaguar in IMSA many years ago, in a morning warm-up of all things, he had one of the most massive wrecks I have ever seen in the carousel. And so anybody who thinks that, okay, that's just sort of that's really not much of a corner, and then, it's just to build speed through the kink. Oh no, the carousel is one of many here that will bite you.
100%. It's a lot of these corners, as we talked about during the prior. Oh, lost the internet there. Oh, there we are. I'm just losing the internet a little bit here. Yep. Okay, got it. So, it's a high-risk track, and you really have to have the car wound out to have the speed down the straights. Like, that's, at the end of the day, where you're going to be able to make some of this lap time up, is making sure you get good exits. And it's about being inch perfect coming up out of the corner. So very, very important here. I'm going to give a little bit of a rundown of the qualifying so far. Just make sure I have this dialed in correctly. Yes, this time I'm correct. So, GP1, the number 46 at Ginger Racing, that's one of the BMWs. They are currently at the front of the GP field at 233.3. The 62 from Open Throttle Racing making its return here. Open Throttle, of course, a long-time WRL entrant, providing some nice arrive and drive vehicles for folks to use and really have a nice ladder system, Greg, to get you into HPDE and then into Champ Car maybe and then up into WRL to make sure you're getting through the system the way it's intended in a safe way with cars that are pretty similar. So you got the 62, 233.9, the 45 of Cabrix Racing, 234.5. The 48 of El Diablo, as we mentioned, last time out, they had the sweep at Thunder Hill. They're currently sitting 4th with a 235.1. The 112 of TC Klein Racing, that's going to be one of the the M2 or the M240 race cars, a 238.1. The Triple Eight of Cajun Canuck Racing, I can't do that bid if there's 3 cars that have Triple Eight on it. That's too bad. Now, 238.2, of course, in the BMW 3 Series, that's going to be an E36, a little bit older car. 64 of Open Throttle Racing, another BMW. The 946 of Flying Fur, and then the 383 of Palomar. Nick Romano behind the wheel right now. That's the car that debuted for Palomar at Thunder Hill, the E90 3 Series. GP2, as expected, we have North Loop Motorsports 237.9 into the 237s, puts them 5th place in GP1 if they were to be that high. I think those changes working a treat. The 55 of AOA Racing, that's the little bit newer BMW 3 Series in 2nd place. The 455 of HC Autosports, the 385 of Culture Racing, the Porsche Boxster, the lone Porsche in the general production field this weekend. 65 of Open Throttle Racing, the 216 of the Skip Barber Racing School, that's one of those GR86 Cup cars, and the 68 of Open Throttle rounds out your GP2 running order so far.
I was just going to make a mention, you were talking about Team Ginger Racing and their BMW M3, and they had, at this event last year, an absolutely stunning event.
They did.
Qualified 3rd, won both of the races, and did with a fairly impressive overall position finish as well. They were on it, and you've got to look at them as the team in GP1 in terms of the race to be, the team that everybody's going to be looking at here.
And I was a little bit premature, I just realized, watching some of our other feeds that are available here as we try some new things. Our pit lane camera is currently trying to do some moving shots with no tripod, so it's good, but not great, obviously. So we're trying to get that squared away and it's something. But I was wrong. The 112 from TC Klein is no longer that BMW M2 or M240i. It is, Greg, a Corvette Stingray. A C8, as it were.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so this is the first time I've seen that car. I forgot they were going to run it. I kind of thought when I saw it roll off the trailer that was going to be just like a track day car that we're bringing because we got space on the trailer. But no, it's entered as the 112, currently in 5th position. I can't think off the top of my head, Greg, about a whole lot more C8s that are currently user prepped and used in club racing. I have not seen that often.
No, I would agree with you. I've been at some events where they run them in time attack.
Right.
But yeah, for actually going out and road racing in that level of prep, they're very few and far between. Certainly TC Klein is, that's an incredibly accomplished team.
Right.
Championship winning team in the World Challenge back in the day.
Yeah.
Know what they're doing. But that's a pretty amazing car. And that should be a very good car here because, I was talking about how a lot of the BMWs are the car of choice, it seems, but compared to that Corvette, they're boxy. And that Corvette sort of fits the bill of what we were talking about with the Porsche in GTO. It's very slippery. It's going to have some very, very, I would think, very impressive brakes. And we know that there's a bit of grunt under that rear deck lid. So I think it should be a car that could be very effective.
I think so, too. I think that's a car that we're going to start to see, and we've talked about this on WRL broadcasts a lot of times, where we're just trying to find what the next solution is. These E46s get harder and harder to find motors for. They're harder and harder to keep on track, especially in an endurance racing setting where you're putting as many miles on the car as you are. You're going to go through consumables and not just brakes, but also engines, transmissions, differentials pretty quickly.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, we're running out. We're running out of early 2000s BMWs to pull parts from, and it's getting more and more difficult. So the question has been for a while, like, what's the next frontier here? Is it going to be the GR86 and the BRZ? We've seen those a handful of times. We've seen a handful of these 4-cylinder BMWs, of course, like the Open Throttle's got a few of those in their paddock space where they have the 4-cylinder, and there's a lot of parts out there for those. They've been making them for a long time, and the book's kind of out there on how to make them reliable. And seeing the C8 here, as I think the prices start to trickle down, Greg, I was looking at a popular auction website probably about a week ago or so, and you can now get these Stingrays in prices that start with a 4. So they're coming down.
Yeah.
You figure your Corvette's got a floor, a price floor of about 30 grand or so, and these may end up holding value more because it's the mid-engine car, of course. But they're getting into the realm where you have the opportunity to buy a high-mile one, and you're going to go through it for racing anyway, so you're going to take all the stuff that's high-mile off it and put new suspension, new everything.
There's a look at that beautiful Corvette. Exit is 6, now down into 7. And here is that fall away that I'm talking about. Literally right as you start your turn in, it starts to fall away all the way through 7. And now with this beautiful aerial shot from our drone, that's that downhill braking zone into turn 8. And now here is the run through the carousel. And again, this is a mid-engine car. So once you get the tires up to temp, the balance on this thing should be spectacular. That perfect late apex there. You want to, get that thing mid-track and then turn it in, and so you can accelerate all the way through that last little downhill run, and then of course through the kink, and then winding your way through what they call kettle bottoms, the lowest part of the track, as you then set up for Canada Corner. And various reasons for the explanation for the name of that. The one I like is that in the early days, somebody said if you lose your brakes and go off there, you'll end up in Canada. So, but here it comes. And absolutely gorgeous car. And there's a few guys that are driving that car that have some serious history in motorsports. One is Dave Spitzer, and he used to run the Cadillac program, the CTSV program in World Challenge. Back when they were real powerhouses in that championship. And so he's got some serious GM connections. I'm not surprised to see him behind the wheel of this beauty.
Yeah, a lot of connections here. A lot of connections here this weekend. We talked about the Mustang, of course, and the Chevy guys, and got some BMW factory connections in the Forza car with Bill Oberlin here this weekend. A lot of people still taking a look at WRL and finding, I think, that as far as dollars per amount of track time, it's really, really hard to compete with. And of course, I love endurance racing. That's my whole thing.
Yes. Well, that's great. And John Miller, I believe, is racing here this weekend. I think he's in the 678. That's track racing with Rapscallion Ligier. And of course, he's very associated with Race for RP, which is a charity that is near and dear to my heart. And John is an absolutely superb endurance racer, and any team that has him there, that's one of the reasons you might bring in a pro driver of some level, is just to get your other drivers and get your team data, and that's so important here in terms of being able to get the car dialed in. And you got somebody who's really good at testing and development and understanding how to set up a relatively new car to get it into the window for being a fast car. Those aren't necessarily the same until you get the car set up. But here you see that Corvette again whistling through the carousel. Late apex on that apex, the curb there. And then you just right here cinch it up. Wait. You don't want to turn in early, or you're going to be straight off of the outside. But everything about the entry, Ryan, to the kink here, it is a study in patience on that turn in, because you're going fast. That corner, you see the exit of it, and it looks sketchy. Everything's telling you turn in, and if you get that too early, that's when you're going to appreciate whatever little runoff you have on the exit. But if you're just patient enough on that turn in, then you can really just roll some serious speed through there. Great shot there, that close-up of that machine now heading up the hill. Just incredible. That vet not quite as fast as our cameraman, but
not at all. It's a work in progress, folks. We're working on it. We're getting her dialed in here.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll take a look at the running order one more time here. We got the driver ID working better, but we're still trying to make sure we get that squared away for you. So I anticipate that by Sunday we'll have that dialed. 46 of Ginger Racing still out front, 2:32.6. They've improved their time. 48 of El Diablo, they have now gone to second position, and they're in pit lane. 2:32.8, so about 2.5 tenths roughly. 9:46 of Flying Fur Motorsports, they're in third position. 62 of Open Throttle, they're going to be in fourth. The 424 of Blitzkrieg in fifth. The 112 of TC Clients, the Corvette we've been talking about, still in sixth position. The first outing for that car. I think it's going to take some time to find how to make speed in that car in these kind of conditions. 45 of Cabrix Racing, 383 of Palomar, 888 of Cajun Canuck, and the 64 of Open Throttle rounds out your top 10 in GP1. And then for GP2, of course, the number 21 of North Loop Motorsports, that they're in the lead right now at 2:36. So no longer in the realm of as fast as a GP1 car, but still well clear of the rest of the GP2 field by about 4 seconds, Greg.
Oof,
I'm going to level with you.
Margin.
I'm not real surprised by that, as the number 55 of AOA just sets their new fast lap at 2:39. So they're the first other car in GP2 to get down into the 2:30s. 83 of Palomar, a longtime entrant out of Southern California. They're currently third. The 455 of HC Autosport, the 385 of Culture Racing, 65 Open Throttle, 216 from Skip Barber Racing, and the 68 of Open Throttle rounds out your top 8 in GP2. So we've got a nice little run here as we take a look at the 21 of North Loop. Just recently, Greg, made the change to have a bigger tire, of course. Not a whole lot of restriction on tire size in WRL, and that car for a long time, the team really wanted to keep it nailed down as a Spec E46, so that if for whatever reason they wanted to get out of the car, they could and sell it on as a Spec E46 or what have you. And just recently making the commitment to take the saw out of the car to fit the larger tires and taking it out of, NASA's specification for that car to get a little bit more pace out of it. And
sure.
Already a competitive team, and now with even bigger tires on the car, I think they're going to have no trouble this weekend. As long as they can keep the car on the island, I think that they're with Palomar in the 83 now to 238, so they're getting closer. It's not the huge gap it was, but I think a 2-second gap in qualifying speaks volumes.
Oh, it's huge, and yes, this is a long track, so everything exaggerates a little bit. But I was just looking at that, and you look at last year here, Team Palomar, they qualified third, and then won on Sunday, finished sixth on Saturday, but won on Sunday. So not a surprise to see good speed from them, no question about that. But Team North Loop, they had a phenomenal event last year, qualified second, won Saturday, second on Sunday, and just really put up some really good numbers here. Now, Team Garage 66, who is not, they're on the entry list, but I don't see them on the track right now. They were the ones who had qualified fastest last year, but I don't see them out there as of yet.
Indeed.
Yeah. TC Klein Racing, that Corvette now has just jumped from fifth to third at a 2:33.4. So that is, right now, provisional pole is a 2:32.6, and they're at a 2:33.4. So they're less than a second away from the provisional pole right now. And I don't know if I'm saying this right, Ryan, Cabrix Racing?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they've just made a big jump up into that fifth that had been occupied by TC Klein Racing. They just turned to 2:33.5, so they've got a good one going as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to see people in GP2 getting the hammer back down. I think on this second run in qualifying always a huge help, I think, for everyone.
Yes.
Trying to get everything the way it needs to go. I'm just trying to fix the overlay here, which is only displaying the prior qualifying session.
Right now, to me, we're at that time when, you've gone out early, you've tried to build a little heat in the tires, and you want to do that very gently. So, and again, the problem with this track is it's a cool day. Yes, you've got some serious high-speed corners that go on forever that can certainly build heat in the tires, but then you have these long runs where the tire isn't that loaded. And again, I'm talking about the front straight and from 3 down to 5 in particular, so it can cool. So you just really want to take your time, get those tires up and ready. And, then you go out and you find out, well, we under-pressured it a little bit too much or something. And you come in, you make a simple little adjustment, simply to the tire pressure, and suddenly you can find a second that is huge. And I've been watching that Bimmer, and I don't know what, if it's something inherent to the car, but the turn 5 and turn 6 apexes, that car was a good 2 feet off of those apexes. Let's see if they dial it up here in turn 8. Now you're falling down the hill. Well, that one looked good. Again, you're falling downhill into a braking zone, and anytime you're going downhill into a braking zone, it just gets a little more tricky, obviously, because you don't have gravity helping you. Now he's keeping a really tight line to the inside and then unwinds the wheel. That works too. It really depends upon the setup of your car and the power of your car. I've talked to a lot of drivers that drive the big bore stuff, and they said, no, the carousel, when you have a big, heavy, really powerful car, you just want to stay tucked to the inside all the way, and make sure you give yourself a little room because you've got so much power and mass. What's going on now? We're getting a report of a car possibly very slow in the carousel right now as we watch that BMW come up and over the hill. There it is. That's the number 424. That was the Team Blitzkrieg Racing Bimmer, and there's this slow car. Boy, he is really crawling right now. Yeah. If he's got some serious issue, you hope he uses the motorcycle chicane there, and he doesn't. So you've got to hope that he is confident he can get that car around to the pits. And I'm sure the corner workers, this is an opportunity to give a shout out to the corner workers who earlier in the day had to literally weather some rain along with the wind, and they've done a fabulous job. And when you've got a slow-moving car like that, you'll see every corner station that car goes past immediately puts up a white flag. And it's just an indication to the oncoming traffic that there is a slow-moving vehicle of some sort, and to be careful. And the corner workers at Road America are superb.
Indeed. Hardy people here in central Wisconsin.
Well, that's true. You got to be.
So about 2 minutes 10 remaining in the session right now. I think we'll be seeing people put in their final laps if they haven't already. But really kind of your last opportunity. If you aren't already out on a flying lap, you're not going to make it. So we've got a few coming across.
Yeah, you need to be out there and have everything ready for a good couple of laps. And it's always in qualifying, Ryan, it's always good to go out early and get a banker lap in.
Yeah.
And then you can duck into the pits, make your little adjustments, whatever, and then come out and really go for it. But just make sure you've got a good lap in case the session gets red flag, black flag for some reason.
Right.
You want to have a time that's at least semi-representative and not, we know we should be in the top 10 and we're 28th, one of those things.
Right.
So,
well, it reminds me of the F1 qualifying we used to see, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, where they changed something with the tire allocation that caused them to do it different now. But it used to be in that final qualifying session, everybody would go out and run like 2 laps and then come in and wait, and the trick was always to be the last car on track, and they did. They would put in their banker lap at the beginning of the session, change tires again if they could, or they were using tires from the previous session. They'd put the fresh ones on, and then they tried to time it to perfection, where it's like, we got one more crack at this thing right at the end to see if we can make it. And so a lot of the times, the WRL qualifying kind of shakes out like that, where you get your first few laps, you come in, and you send the car back out right at the end to see if you can create a little bit more lap time for yourself as the seconds wind down here. About 20 seconds to go until we'll see the checker, and then all lap times will be final.
I want to ask you a quick question. The car that just went out of frame there is the Skip Barber Racing, the Toyota GR86 Cup car.
Yes, sir.
I'm a lot newer to the World Racing League than you are. Give us a quick story on the background of that program.
So I believe, and I would want to speak with somebody from Skip Barber about this before, but I believe this is students that recently completed, or have completed relatively recently, the racing school, being given an opportunity to come out here and do some real racing wheel to wheel. We've also seen them bring a GT4 Aston Martin out to Road America in the past, but this year it looks like they're just going for the GR86 Cup car. A good car, I think, for Skip Barber. If you're trying to get people developed, I think that GR86 Cup car, a good one to get your feet wet for GT racing at this point.
That's a great program, and it makes sense that Skip Barber would have sort of that carrot. If you're one of our top students, you can come and race in the World Racing League in one of our cars. I think that's the 45 Team Kubricks Racing BMW M3. We've been following it. It's been going super slow. The 46, that's the Team Ginger Racing entry. And this is a big development then. They currently have the fastest provisional time by about a quarter of a second. But they've got something fairly significant going on. And it ended up going so slow, and actually, put a couple of wheels off track to give the other cars as much room as possible. But the minute that they dropped the tires off the track edge, you saw the flags go from white to yellow. And again, that's just another higher level of warning for the drivers. But the way that thing's moving, I don't see there's any. Is he going to be able to make it up into pit lane? God, it's almost like he's on the starter, and I don't know how long that battery's going to last. Because this is as steep a climb as it is. As it is on that front straight.
Yeah, I think we're going to see people pulling in here.
Yep. I think most have. Boy, this is a pretty shot. Such a great addition. And it's great to see the series, along with DriversEye Live, committing to these kind of upgrades here to give us even better looks. I mean, that is just stunning. That run down there, and you can see some small, grandstands, and that's, I love that, because this track's big enough you want a golf cart, but on a weekend like this, you can even just do it in your car and just drive out to whatever corner you want. And you'll be able to find some place to sit if you don't bring a nice comfy chair, and be able to watch a little bit. And that's the magic of a road course,
right?
Seeing all the different corners out there and seeing, how that plays out. We just got a report that the Team Ginger Racing BMW did not make the climb up the hill, but it does remain on the provisional pole, and it's provisional. They just need to pass post-qualifying checks. But Ginger Racing by a quarter of a second, Ryan, over El Diablo Motorsports in that number 48 BMW M3, and then the Corvette in its debut from TC Klein Racing, only another half a second back from those two cars that have been very well sorted here. So great debut for TC Klein in that Corvette.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing that car. We've had Corvettes in the past, C5s and C6s in. Indeed, they did make it. That BMW did make it to the pit lane. Yeah. But we've had Corvettes in the past, but just the C8 is a new look, and I'm really excited to see how that goes tomorrow. So We'll give one more rundown here. The 46 of Ginger Racing, the 48 of El Diablo, just barely at the end here, loses a couple tenths. I'm sorry, they had been a second. Bam, results gone. They reset the session. I can't read them. Anyway.
Well, I've got them here. So,
perfect. All right.
Yeah, the 112 of TC Klein. Then it's the 946. That's the Team Flying Fur Motorsports BMW, sits in fourth, 22 1,000ths behind the Corvette. Rounding out your top five, it's the number 45 Cabrix Racing entry. That is a car that is a 1995 BMW, but it certainly works well. Then it's the number 62 Team Open Throttle Racing BMW Tier 35 IR. Then it's the 424 Blitzkrieg Racing BMW that we were following around a little bit. Looked like they were struggling to get that car to turn in. I think there's more speed in that car. Then we got the 888 of Team Cajun. Then the 55, the 555, that is the team entry. Then the 383 of Palomar Racing, and then completing the GP1 group, it's the Open Throttle Racing number 64, completing your field. And then in GP2, that North Loop Motorsports car up by an easy 2 seconds. Boy, they are absolutely flying. Then the 83 Palomar Racing entry. Then third is the 55 AOA Racing entry. And then in the fourth spot, the HC Autosport number 455. And then in the fifth spot, the 216, that's that Skip Barber Racing Toyota GR86 Cup car. Then in the sixth spot, the 385. I love the name and the way they spell it. Team Culture Racing, KULTUR, in the lone Porsche Boxster, the lone Porsche in this field. And then rounding things out are the two Open Throttle Racing entries, the 65 and the 68. So there you have it. We are wrapped up on our qualifying here at the World Racing League's fourth round of their 2026 championship, and it is a comprehensive one. And this is one of the events that counts for points for every one of their series. If you're running the National Series, if you're running the East Championship, or the Midwest Championship, you're getting points for running here. So a good entry here. And of course, Ryan, we have two long endurance races coming up here tomorrow.
Great endurance racing at Road America. I can't ask for a whole lot more for stuff that I'm excited to watch. So, again, we'll be here tomorrow, 9 a.m. I think we're going to try to get the broadcast started about 8:45. We'll have some nice pit lane shots. We'll have more of the drone. We'll have the whole nine available here for you on the World Racing League's YouTube page. In fact, the links are already up right now, so you'll be able to save them, and it'll remind you as it goes live. So if you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, it'll push it to your phone. That way you don't miss it. We'll be happy to see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you so much, Greg, for carrying this one for me. I really appreciate it. You guys will hear more of TV's Greg Kramer tomorrow morning. We're looking forward to, I think, a fantastic race. So once again, from everybody at DriversEye Live, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.